Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this information session open house for the Columbia Visual Arts MFA program. It's great to see so many people here on a Sunday morning. I'm Matthew Buckingham. I'm Associate Professor of Art and current Chair of the Visual Art program. And this morning, we're going to introduce you to our program and faculty, and then we will break out into smaller groups to answer questions about the application process that's more particular to disciplines. After we introduce the program, we'll also ask for your questions, especially questions that will benefit everyone hearing the answer to. So you may want to write this down as we go through the program, and you may have brought questions with you, which is great. And then from 3 to 6 p.m., of course, please be sure to visit our open studios. The second year MFA students in our program are opening their studios to the public this afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. It's a very exciting event for them and for us. And we have one special request for you regarding open studios today, and that's that we ask that you focus your conversations with our students on their work, on the work that they're presenting, and reserve your questions about the program for us. That's why we're here today, this morning, to give you as much information as we can. So there's a handout, I believe, in your folder, which has a lot of the information that we're going to talk about. It may not be in the same order that we go through right now at this moment, but there's something in there to follow along with. So the most important thing, I think, to know about our program is that we are a completely interdisciplinary program. Everyone teaching in the program and studying in the program works with everyone else. So even though you apply through specific portals related to the media that you are working with now, you will get feedback from students and faculty and visitors who are working in the complete range of media that artists are working with today. And also important, you have a platform with which to explore other media. You're encouraged but not required to think about the other media as they might relate to what's important to you in your art practice. Those portals that you apply through, the disciplines, the 6 disciplines that we work with, specifically are moving image, painting, photography, printmaking, sculpture, and what we and many other schools call new genres, which comprise any combination of all those other media plus anything else that artists may be working with, or that you may be working with in any form. We have a total of 54 students in the 2-year program. We admit 27 students each year. And once accepted, as I mentioned before, you're encouraged to think about your practice from the ground up, and that includes re-examining every aspect of what you've brought with you. I think most of us sitting here at this table agree that community is probably the #1 reason to earn an MFA. And at Columbia, that is baked into our curriculum and the base level of our teaching philosophies. And this MFA community is made up of faculty, students who would be in your cohort, and maybe also most importantly, alumni. There's an ever-growing community of amazing alumni who stick together and welcome the graduating class each year. And it's truly remarkable to see this and participate in it, especially as a faculty member, seeing the longer view and seeing this amazing, vibrant community grow over time. The students who are enrolled in our program participate in a very multifaceted curriculum, not only because it's interdisciplinary, but also because of the number of people that they are meeting on a regular basis, including full-time faculty, visiting critics, visiting faculty, and then, of course, the electives that are open to you, and we'll get into that in a little bit later. But right now, I would like to ask our faculty and staff who are here to answer questions to introduce themselves, and I think we'll just start down here with Susanna. Sorry, with Tomas. So I couldn't see.
Hi, I'm Tomas Vu, and I'm the director of printmaking.
Susanna Coffey of painting faculty.
Gregory Amanoff, director of painting and drawing. John Kessler, director of sculpture.
I'm Dana Buell. I'm the manager of the photo facilities.
I'm Shelley Silver. I'm director of moving image and acting director of new genre.
Good morning, I'm David DiGiulio. I'm a painting faculty and the acting director of graduate studies.
I'm Gabo Chemnitzer, and I work in the sculpture area.
Great, thank you. And
Julie. I'm not faculty. I'm Julie Dobrow. I'm the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid.
thanks again. I'll just mention that other current part-time visiting faculty, some of them are this year, Gina Beavers, Shirley Bahar, Tyler Coburn, Abigail DeVille, Lizzie DeVita, Tamar Hatun, Marian Hassinger, E.J. Hauser, Ajay Kurian, Liz Magic Laser, Ken Okishi, Pamela Sneed, Sarah Vanderby. And also we have a full-time term appointment with Renee Cox, teaching in photography this year. So let's look in more detail at the structure of the graduate program. And I should also mention that Thomas Vu is currently serving as our Director of Undergraduate Studies. We have an undergraduate program of majors and also students from the college who take our courses. We offer, we have more than 600 undergraduate students in our program overall each school year. And Dana DiGiulio this year is serving as graduate director, our director of graduate studies. So she and I will walk you through the structure of the graduate program. Let's start with Graduate Studio, which is one of the main core courses in the program.
It says so on your helpful sheet here, but grad studio is on Monday nights, and all the students are working in their studios from 4 to 9, and they receive a exciting constellation of visitors throughout the semester between full-time faculty and visiting critics and sort of exciting list of visiting faculty. It's rad, 1-hour conversations. Like resume working. It's kind of a nice time because everybody's sort of in their studio at once and then they sort of spill out into the hall and talk to each other about what just happened.
And also in the spring, it's set up more on an advising model where each of our students works with 2 full-time faculty over the semester, meeting more regularly, obviously, with the same 2 people, and then there are still visiting critics on rotation as well. Another part of the core curriculum is our small group critique course or class. This meets on Wednesday nights. The 3 core classes meet in the evenings, which allows for time for your electives during the day at the university or in our program. And the small group critique class is run on a rotation where you have group critiques among a group of 6 to 8 students for three Wednesdays, and then you have 3 Wednesdays off to use as studio time, and then a second round for each of you. So that pattern repeats then fall and spring semester. And
Group studio, group crit is great because it's a nice time to sort of cultivate a sort of lateral dialogue between you and your peers. It's administered by the faculty member in whichever way they choose. Right now, Shelley and John and I are doing it, as well as Ajay Kurian. But it's really nice. Like it's a lot of students talking back and forth, which is really sort of a privilege as a faculty member to be able to watch that go down or help facilitate that.
And then there's the Visiting Artist Lecture Series.
Right, aka VALS. We are now on the back side of the sheet if you're following along. VALS is the Visiting Artist Lecture Series. It's currently being faculty chaperoned by Double Condenser. There are 4 VALS fellows every year. Students apply for this job for their 2nd year, and they take many polls among their peers and figure out who the students want to speak to, which is pretty rad. So it's like 20 to 24 lectures each year, weekly, Tuesday nights. Super intimate. They're private lectures, so it's in between. All people are invited are Columbia grad students and other people on the campus or otherwise affiliated with the campus. So artists tend to approach it, visitors tend to approach it in this kind of like intimate, colloquial, casual way. So it's less of a like delivery from a spotlit podium, more of a like sitting in the half dark talking to students. It's a really, really good time for Q&A and access to these people too, not in a sort of creepy, vampiric way, but in a kind of like, but as far as genealogy goes, like a lot of the artists have been really generous with their time and availability and speaking about what it was like when they were students, etc.
And they also do 2 studio visits, and that's all based on lottery, like several things in our program.
And the 3rd core curriculum element is our requirement for critical thinking classes. And these are satisfied by taking electives either in our program that are geared for critical thinking in contemporary art, or by finding new classes at the university that we will approve for this requirement. The critical thinking requirement is really driven by the idea that the university is an amazing resource for every aspect of what may drive your studio practice. And so conceptually, you can cast a wide net. Within our program, we offer 4 critical issues in contemporary art classes, which are organized thematically, and 2 discipline seminars that rotate. So, for instance, starting this spring semester, there will be a graduate seminar in performance and related media, which is a combined studio and academic class where students in that class will be bringing their work in alongside the readings and the written work that will happen in that seminar. So all of those are seminars. And then of course it's endless, the possibilities for taking academic electives at Columbia that would fit very well with what you're doing in the studio. And then There's our artist mentor program.
We also have that. The Artist Mentor Program is pretty rad. There's a group of mentors who are listed here, but I'll say them anyway. Mark Dion, David Humphrey, Michael Jew, Ralph Lemon, Rochelle Mosman-Solana, Matthew Ritchie, Rona Yeffman, Kiki Smith, and Craig Saniello. During this time, each mentor group has about 15 students in it, and for 2 weeks a semester, they are taken on field trips and hangouts and dialogues and visits to artist studios. They're sort of like each student gives their mentor each student has two mentors actually, and they're given a week with each of them each semester, and they're sort of like you belong to Ralph Lemon for a week. And some people sort of have sometimes some mentors are perturbed by having sort of intense dialogues in the crit space over at Practice Across the Street. Sometimes they're camping. I don't know. It seems exciting. I've never been on one. I didn't go here. They really like it. Sorry.
And then in addition to the required electives of critical thinking, there are other elective options with the points that you have at your disposal to distribute. And so many students entering the program will take advantage of the interdisciplinary nature of the program and enroll in studio classes in other media that they may want to try, that they haven't, or get new skills in another area, or go deeper into what they are bringing with them. And then, of course, there are other electives, dance or voice, or things that also may connect directly with advancing your work. And lastly, a really important component of the program are the public events, one of which you will see today. And Dana, do you want to say anything about those?
Yes. I mean, also, like, many people sitting at this table have been working here for a really long time and have really helped shape what the program is like, too. So if any interjections are welcome from down the table or directly next to me. Oh, really? Great, good. I hope you can come to school here. Goes on all year. Yeah, today's Open Studios, I appreciate this is a little, negative parenthetical before I sort of launch into this, but I think Matthew's right. Please go over there today. The students have been working their faces off on this, and they're really, really excited. They're 3:30 a.m. text message excited. So that's really good. But Matthew's right. Don't be how do you get in here? Just ask them what they've made in their studio. That would be nice, because they're sort of pumped to invite you in and to explain it, to sort of be given the initial task in explaining their work to strangers. As you probably guessed, this program is pretty intimate, so we're kind of all tangled up with each other a lot, and it's really going to be a nice rehearsal for them for the purpose of their thesis show, to sort of begin to introduce what they're up to people who they've never seen before, who they imagine are also practitioners. So yeah, go over to that, 36 across the street. The first year exhibition is coming. In the spring, every year, first-year students have a big show with a curator. This year it's Natalie Bell. The curator goes around and speaks to the first-year students, and they figure out what they're going to show. It's in this building on the 4th floor or something. On the 6th floor.
Right.
It's in this building. You know what the building looks like, so it's kind of sexy, I guess, to have your work on these immense walls. Yeah, so they like the first-year show, and the students group. I don't know, I can't stress enough how well the students here take care of each other. I don't know if it's because we're good at curating them or something, but they really, once they're on the ground and once they're enrolled, they sort of do a good job helping each other out. So it's always really nice to see the work aggregate or coalesce into something like an exhibition. That's also true of the thesis show, which is in the spring this year. Yeah, there's a curator for that too. I don't know if I can say anything about who that is yet, but it's going to be rad. You should go to it. Yeah, and for the thesis show, the students meet with the curator several times in anticipation for this, and it's on 2 floors of this building. So yeah, all interdisciplinary, everybody together. It looks good, so if you're in town, you should go see that too.
Yeah, please come back for those events. And if you get a chance, please stop on the 6th floor and have a look at the Wallach Gallery. That is the space where first year exhibition takes place. as well as this room that we're in now, gets built out on a similar floor plan for the thesis. The two floors together comprise the thesis exhibition space. So have a look at that.
Oh, there's a catalog. It's cool. It's good catalog.
One last thing that's important in our program to note is just the teaching opportunity with serving as a teaching assistant twice during the 2 years, which is very valuable, of course, if you're interested in teaching in the future. And also, it's a really great way of working more closely with a faculty member within your interest to be assisting them. And it's quite typical that our TAs will teach a class at least once in each semester. Please.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing thing about Columbia is our program, but also the undergraduate students. Every semester I teach moving image undergraduate every semester, and I'm always shocked by how wonderful the undergraduates are. And in the class there are also graduate students, and it's great to see how much the graduate students bring and the TAs bring, but how much the undergraduates bring. They're really sometimes shockingly smart and not necessarily risk-taking at the beginning of the class, but they learn to be so.
And we also have a sister program in sound art.
Sister. Right, so our sister sound is run by Mia Masaoka. It's a sibling.
Sure.
Can we not gender sound?
Yeah.
It's inside. The sound students are in this thesis show with us. Their studios are mixed up with the visual arts graduate students. Mia Masaoka runs the program. She's a really rad artist and really smart. They just had like a midnight crit in the library or something. So the sound students are coming from both high art and music backgrounds too. So they're kind of in the mix with us.
And it's a collaborative project with the music department, between the visual art program and the music department, and the computer music center. Computer music center is housed in our building across the street, where you'll be at the Open Studios, Prentice Hall, and they are the location for the sound art students' study and studios. Their studios are also open this afternoon, so make sure to look carefully at the map and not miss any of that. And actually, we have some studios that are a little bit off the beaten path, which you'll not want to miss. So have a really close look at the map as you go around. There's signage, but it's a bit of a labyrinth over there. So make sure to try to see everything. So does anyone else have anything they want to add about academics and the curriculum, the core program?
I just add one thing, just to expand on what Matthew said about the TA-ship. One of the things, when Matthew was talking about community, one of the things that really works is not only would you have a chance to work with, say, one of us or other adjunct faculty, but a number of our faculty, not all, but a number of the adjunct faculty are alumni, so that you might be working with somebody who graduated 5 or 6 years ago, which means you're going to get involved in the people they know and go to those openings, and that's one of the ways that creates even a broader community. Not only working with us, but working with all the adjunct faculty. So you sort of permeate our world in New York in a really interesting, supportive way.
Thanks. So now I'd like to turn it over to Julie Dobrow, our Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid, to fill us in about the process.
Thank you all so much for coming today. I've been at Columbia on and off since 1997. I was a student in the theater program and had my MFA from here. And one of the things that I think is really important for you guys to know is that the visual arts program is part of a larger school of the arts. So there's theater, there's visual arts, film and writing, in addition to sound arts. So it's a wonderful community of artists working together, and we try as much to foster collaboration in and among the students, not as much in the curricular realm, but certainly in the extracurricular realm. So one of our goals is for you to meet the filmmakers and the theater makers and the writers. It's really a wonderful environment for that. So the application deadlines are on the sheet that you have. It's just important that you know that those are hard deadlines unless there is some kind of major crisis, in which case you can let our office know about it, but we really ask you to respect those deadlines because the faculty themselves are the ones that are reviewing your applications and they need enough time to make sure each of you are given the time that it demands. I just want to make sure you know who my staff is, the people who checked you in downstairs. Kenny Wong and Niquette Johnson and Daima Mubashir. I think Daima may actually be here. I feel like I saw her come in. Are you here, Daima? Maybe she left. Anyway, oh, there she is. She just walked in. So we're the people that you will be interacting with over the next couple of months if you decide to apply. We're a small office, but we like to think that we are very accessible to you all. So please, any questions that you have about the application process, do not hesitate reaching out, and we'll be there to answer them. The application is live now. It was live as of October 1st, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at it. If not, feel free to dive in. You can go in and out, so you can save your work. You don't have to finish it all in one sitting, which is great. There's also a financial aid application. In fact, there's two applications if you are a domestic student. So if you're a domestic student or permanent resident, you need to fill out the FAFSA, which many of you may know from undergraduate. That's what determines your eligibility for any federal aid, including loans and work study. We also have our own application, the School of the Arts Financial Aid application, which gives us a little bit more information about your financial situation. Both of these applications are due on February 4th. And it's important that you realize that that's a full month after your regular application deadline, which is to say the admissions committee does not review your financial need at all. It is not factored into whether or not you're accepted. So please know that, and if you are in need of financial aid, do not hesitate to apply. It will not affect your ability to get into the school. So just to reiterate, domestic students need to fill out both the FAFSA and the School of the Arts application. International students only have to fill out the School of the Arts application because unfortunately you are not eligible for federal aid through the US government. And just so you know, 100% of first-year visual arts students receive some form of aid from the school. It's usually a combination of scholarship, TA position, and or a service position. Service positions are positions within the department, whether you're working in the shops, whether you're helping in the visual arts office. They pay between $20 and $25 an hour, and it's another way for you to make some money while you're on campus and use that to help support your education. Let's think, what else? It's really important that it's a very expensive program in a very expensive city, and we just want to put that out there because it's foolish to make sure that you guys don't realize that. We encourage people as early as possible to start looking for outside sources of support. So right now, even before you've submitted your application, even before you know whether or not you've gotten in, start looking for outside scholarships, outside grants that you may be eligible for, because often if you don't hear from us until March, it's too late to get funding for September. So make sure that you're on that and do whatever research you can. If you're accepted, we give you access to our Artist Resource Center database, which has 1,100 outside grants and scholarships that you may be eligible for. So this is just if you're accepted. You don't have to decide whether or not you're coming, because we understand a lot of people have to work out the finances before they can make a commitment. But once you're accepted, we'll give you access to that database, and that should also help you in your search for outside funding. And one other thing, we're going to have an online Q&A session coming up in the next couple of weeks closer to the application deadline. So if you have any last-minute questions, the faculty will be overseeing that. Any questions about the application itself, the submission of creative materials, just know that that's going to be an option for you to present those questions. Of course, during the whole process, feel free to reach out to my office, and we'll help you as best as we can. So, thanks so much.
Great, thank you, Julie. So now we want to turn things over to you and find out what questions you have for everyone sitting here at this table. We can begin anywhere. Yes?
Hi, I'm Isabel, and I'm currently enrolled in Pratt Institute for BFA Photography. And first of all, I love the 26 windows around here. It's amazing. I'm currently undergraduate, and I'm just curious, like, if there's a lot of students who come right after the BFA program, or like people who have some experience outside, or like doing more personal works, and then like revisit the MFA program for more education.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers exactly. I would say we don't have a rule. And I'll probably be saying this, and many of us may be saying this morning, that everything is really based on the work and your objectives for study and you as an artist. You know, this is really the criteria. So we do accept students directly from undergrad into the grad program. It's not extremely common. I would say partly due to the competitiveness of the admissions process here, and then also, you know, subjectively, I think that time, you know, speaking for myself, that time between undergraduate and graduate is also a very important time for growing as an artist. And I think that's what makes some of those applications very strong, is that there's been this time in between and a process of reflection.
The average age is 27, just to put it in perspective.
Thank you. I think I have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of the faculty and the facilities for photo program.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering,
No, right.
like specifics, like dark rooms, like printing stations, like how they're all residing.
Right. We've been very passionate about hanging on to analog black and white photography in practice here, and this is what is primarily taught in at the undergraduate level. And this is what our grads will be running the lab, TAing, etc. But at the graduate level, we encourage all approaches to so-called lens-based making, and we're in the process of considering how we can improve our digital facilities alongside holding on to the black and white. So yeah, in terms of the hardware, that's sort of the answer. Was there a second part about photography to your question?
Oh no, that was like a general question. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, lots of hands. Maybe just all. Oh yes, right here.
With regards to portfolio submissions, if we're working on multiple bodies of work currently, would you prefer to see a single coherent body of work represented by the portfolio, or can we submit multiple different things?
Yeah, again, I think the answer lies in giving us the best sense of who you are as an artist and what you want from graduate school. So there won't be one answer for everybody, because it's really the process of composing the portfolio, we think, is one of it's a critical process on your part in thinking about how do you want a panel to look at the work you've been doing. There is also the option of applying in more than one area when there's coherent body of work in several different media. You could apply, for instance, in sculpture and photography, if your work is going in those directions and you want them to be considered for the dialogue that may exist in those disciplines. And yeah, please, anyone, and Shelley.
I would say, please give us the information we need. We're looking at a JPEG, or we're looking at an excerpt of something, and so be generous in the information you give us in terms of materials, in terms of what we're looking at. It's not always evident. And I would also say, stay away from too many details. You only have X amount of images. And if it's like detail after detail after detail, it's not as useful as giving us other work. I would also say be careful about how far back you go. We're, of course, most interested in your most recent work, but showing us a trajectory could be interesting. But I mean, I've looked at applications that go back to high school and before, and unless there's a real reason to do that, which I could imagine, I would stay away from that.
Yeah, and with that, like experimentation is rad, but we're not evaluating like the technical scope of your project. You know, you don't have to like throw in an etching because you made one once. You know, like try to confabulate a coherent body of work that demonstrates that you can listen to yourself.
I'd like to chime in on that topic because it's important to know who you are in the portfolio, what your sources of inspiration are that are revealed through your work, and you know, perhaps where you need to go or aspects of the work that you feel need to change or be influenced. That's something that goes into the statement and the application materials that will accompany your portfolio. But who you are is what we're looking for, to try to understand what inspires you and what is your commitment in regards to your artistic expression.
I was curious if you could, any number of you, weigh in on your perspectives of what distinguishes this program from the others that are offered in the city.
Who would like to field that one?
I'll start because I'm the newbie. I've come here from many, many years at other schools, other professional art schools. And I would say there's two major things, and everyone else who has helped build the program and has been here longer will fill us in. But primarily, the interdisciplinary nature of this school is different than almost every other program. The idea that the studios of all of the graduate students are in proximity is a very important aspect, because the interplay between artists of different disciplines and interests really starts to percolate within the work of each person. So that seems to be very, very different than almost every other program. And the second last thing I'll say is that the collegiality of this program seems to incite connections between the students that go on past the point of graduation. It seems like the Columbia grads continue to share resources, know each other, and help each other in aspects of their career. So those are two things I've noticed that are very different in this program than in other programs.
From a structural point of view, and when John was chair, so I'll speak for him, he'll appreciate that. He instituted the mentor program, and that is a really key aspect of the program. Working with these artists over a period of 2 years, all of them have very vibrant careers and are very committed to working with those small groups, really creates another level of bonding, not only with your group, especially with your group, I should say, and with those mentors. And that's something that doesn't exist in any program I can think of in the United States anyway. That's a very important aspect from a structural element. Graduates have told me for years that had great effect on them, and they often have relationships with those artists going forward 10, 20 years.
I think another thing is the level of commitment from our faculty, from what I see. There's roughly a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 students per full-time faculty here in our MFA program, which means that there's a lot of access to all of us. And I'm always amazed at how much above and beyond our faculty go in terms of their teaching with the grad program.
I would also say the amazing commitment on the part of our student body. I mean, that really people don't come to Columbia because they sort of kind of would like to try art somehow. I mean, the level of commitment is really extraordinary.
One of the first year students asked me in week 3 when she was supposed to go home. Sometime. Yeah, they don't go home.
Hey, so like in 2018, there were some reports of MFA students that were frustrated with the program, and as someone applying to a very expensive program, that can be a little stressful to hear. So I'd just like to hear from the faculty how you felt about that and how those students are doing, just like what the vibe is.
Oh, that's a great question. We were also very concerned that year. We worked as a faculty to address the issues that were unfolding. We also were allies with the students and vice versa, from my experience with the issues. And that the students who were here then, both classes, I was extremely proud of the way that they handled the situation, which was not their responsibility. It was something that we all did have to address together, the many different issues that came up that year. And this year we have been in a much, much better place. And even beginning last year, there were far less distractions in the studio, and this year it's been quite good. I wouldn't say at all that everything has been solved, but it's not been in our way in the last 2 semesters. But I'm curious what anyone else might want to say about that. Shelley was on sabbatical. Yeah, but thank you for that question. Yes. Oh, sorry. Oh, whatever. There's.
Hello, my name is Camila. I would like to ask, what would you say are the biggest challenges that students face during the program, and how does the school or faculty or other students helpful to overcome or face these challenges?
Anyone?
I think often a challenge is the finances, because it is an expensive program in an expensive city. I can tell you that my office, we're admissions and financial aid. We're no longer dealing with you once the admissions piece is over, but the financial aid piece, we deal with you your entire time that you're here. So we often encourage students to come in one-on-one. We work with you to look at your budgets, to find ways that you can help finance your education and give you support. But it can be challenging, so that's why we encourage students to come in with their eyes open and to do as much research in advance as to potential sources of outside funding to help you while you're here. We don't want you to worry about finances when you're here. We want you to worry about getting the most out of your education. So my office exists to alleviate that pressure as much as possible.
I'd just add that it's a very hands-on, very busy program. When people first come, right about now they're settling in and figuring out how time management works. There's a lot that you're doing. It's not a laissez-faire program. It is ridiculously expensive. We all know that. At least we try hard to give some degree of, intensity to that program. So adjusting to that is always an issue at the very beginning, and then it settles out. Sometime in late October, always people figure out how get their sea legs, as the expression goes.
And what I've heard at that moment that Gregory's talking about is almost every year, many students speak to me about coming to the realization that they are challenging themselves, and that this is the biggest challenge to begin to reassess and take responsibility for your practice. Sorry. My throat's a little raw today. And I think that comes from going back to the question, the condition that Susanna was talking about. Why am I an artist, and what kind of artist am I?
I would say that's absolutely the biggest challenge. It's a challenge that never goes away for artists. It's a challenge that doesn't get easier. It gets harder as time goes on. But there's like a skill set to manage those challenges. So I would say that, besides for all this other stuff, and especially time, that this is the biggest challenge of our students.
Yeah, in the same way that whenever you ask a question, you sort of risk being undone, right? And I think that that's the thing about all of us, if not directly empathizing, then at least sympathizing with the students. We remember being in school, asking questions, engaging dialectically as an artist in the world. In my case, 12 years after grad school, it's still quite hard, and I think that students also have trouble taking their work apart. This is around about the time too, where you're rewarded, you get into Columbia, this is rad, it must be going really well, but this is around the time where first year students begin to sort of deconstruct what they've done and try to build something else out of the pieces, and that's a super harrowing thing to watch happen, but it's really lovely that the students help each other because they're all kind of going through it at once. A second year said to me in group cred a couple weeks ago, she was like, wow, what happens to us between year 1 and year 2? And I was like, I think you just learn how to listen to yourself because there's so many of us, there's so many faculty, there's so many meetings, everybody's talking at you. And I think at the beginning, students are like, wow, I must be great or something. But I think once that they can sort of parse through and get the sort of precise antenna up to collect that noise and figure out what it is they want to hear and want to do, and whether or not taking apart your work means taking apart your idea of yourself. That's not, I think that's sort of dangerous, right? So people have to navigate how far their work is away from them, maybe, too. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of the students are in that at the same time.
And this issue is something that is common to all graduate programs. The burnout of any good graduate programs. There is this first year dissolution, and as it must happen. But what is a little different here is that the number of practicing artists that the first year person encounters, both through the mentoring and studio visits, vals, et cetera, there are many models of how to be an artist that are presented to the incoming student. And while initially that can be a little overwhelming, it seems to kick in a sense of possibility to that process that is different than I've seen elsewhere.
I have a question about the portfolio. So if we're applying under one field, say painting, and we do also video and sculpture, are we encouraged to submit works cross-disciplinary?
It's really, as I was mentioning a minute ago, it's a way for us to see what your priorities are. So if there is a connection, if it's vital, this connection between the way you're using different media, then that is a good reason to include, let's say, a sculpture in a primarily painting application. But at the same time, it's possible to, it requires an additional application fee, but one could weight different, weight the portfolio differently and apply in 2 areas or 3. Then the people who are working in those disciplines will be the people on the committee that's looking at that particular portfolio. But like everyone has said, understanding who you are as an applicant and as an artist, as an emerging artist, is really the key thing to go back to as you make decisions about the work, about how the panel will understand it, how will they navigate thinking about your work in a virtual platform, a virtual interface of images, video, sound, what have you, where we don't have the work in front of us. And so making that, thinking about the sequence, which works are the first works? Do you work from most recent work back a little bit, or is it more important to think about the themes, the questions that you're working with, which maybe then you're jumping between this year and last year or 3 years ago and so on? So it's a very good question, and it's a question I think that each applicant has to answer differently, depending on what they're doing.
I'd just add, and I'll just speak for painting, but I think it's true with all the disciplines in the admissions process. There's a broad range of kinds of work, just talking about painting in particular. All things painting, it's a very broad spectrum. So, however, you will be compared to other people that are painting. That doesn't mean that there's a narrow cast, like we're looking for figure painters or something. So there's a broad range there, and a good thing that Suzanne said was, in your statement you can mention that there are other interests, and maybe, as Matthew pointed out, you can indicate with an image or two, just to show the breadth of what you're interested in, and you can, speak to that in your statement. But when the images are coming up, you're going to be looking at a full range of what moving image means, a full range of what is considered printmaking or painting. So, it's not narrow cast either. But if it's too diverse, it gets very complicated.
One thing I think is really important to think about, and also particular not only to this program, but very strong in this program, is we're not looking for a certain kind of painter. We're not looking for a certain kind of person who does photography. We're really looking for like a Noah's Ark, like the best that's out there, like something that surprises us. So just to say, kind of bring it on.
Thank you.
With the electives, how challenging is it to get to other classes outside of the arts program? And I'm particularly interested in the economics department. Has anyone done that before? I'm just wondering what difficulty or relationships exist outside of the school.
Which department was that?
Economics.
Oh, okay. It really depends on the nature of the class that you want to get into. Many classes are small seminars, which are more competitive and require a different level of participation than a lecture class would. And I'm speaking about non-School of the Arts, non-visual arts classes. But on the other hand, we do have lots of friends and allies among professors in other programs, and they're very curious and interested and supportive of visual art graduate students, because it really changes the class, the nature of the conversation in the class towards something that they find really interesting. So it's sort of both. It can be difficult. There's a long period of 2 weeks basically of people settling into their classes, registering for more than they're going to take, attending the first class, or turning up when a class is full and making your case for getting in, or maybe just getting on the wait list. So it's the first 2 weeks is interesting. It's very not settled, but kind of exciting.
I would also echo that. You have to be proactive and persistent. But if you are, and if you contact the faculty member in advance, and if you show up on the first day, they are so happy to have you guys in their classes. And just one of the benefits of the visual arts program is that it's part of Columbia University, which is one of the greatest institutions in the world. That you have access to incredible faculty in all different disciplines. So we absolutely encourage you to be proactive and try to get access to those classes.
Let's hear from this side.
I have two questions. The first is relating back to the complaint in 2018. I've read that there was an element of it was absent faculty, and I'm wondering if you guys can speak to maybe like an estimate of the number of hours that you spend with individual students per semester now versus prior to the complaint? And then I have another question about finances after that.
Well, I think, thinking back to that year, the question about faculty had more to do with sabbaticals than the weekly schedule, because everyone who was here in their full-time role was doing their regular contact hours with graduate and undergraduate students. So that hasn't really changed. I mean, that's the same as it was then. It's difficult with a small faculty, relatively small faculty, to coordinate and schedule the sabbaticals that are deserved and that are on schedule. Because we have several junior faculty and associate faculty who came in at the same time, or more or less the same time, then the leave schedules have been very much aligned. And we also had a couple of professors who unexpectedly, in one case, left, and we needed to replace that person. And in another case, chose to leave for a career. So, we're very responsive. We prefer to be responsive to students' ideas and the needs and interests of students. But in this case, the last few years, we've also been using these changes as ways of bringing in people that are fabulous to work with and that students wouldn't have had a chance to work with by doing what are called full-time term appointments, where year to year we're, rather than filling in with adjuncts. This is going back to the first question about 2018. Faculty made the condition that we would not be doing what is often the case, where absent faculty are filled in class by class, where then as adjuncts they're not on campus as much, they don't have office hours necessarily. Being a small faculty, we really wanted to maintain the tight collegiality and the atmosphere of care that we have as a graduate program. Because the graduate program is really the heart of what we do, and that's what makes our undergraduate program really dynamic as well. So it's all knit together, and it's hard to quantify, but that's been our approach.
My second question is about how graduates do post-grad, how financially, how do people end up rebounding the cost of the education? Do people carry this debt forever? If you have any statistics on that would be great.
So I don't actually have any statistics, although I can tell you that the default loan rate is very low, which means that students are actually paying back their loans. It's unless you come from a very financially wealthy background, it's hard to get through this program without taking out some form of debt. And many of our students do that. As I said, we have scholarships, we have service positions and TAs, which we help, hopefully will help you minimize that amount. But I think realistically, it's, students should come in knowing that there may be some kind of debt that you're carrying with you. But, we certainly aren't hearing that a lot of students are defaulting, which means that they're finding ways to pay it back. And again, one of the things that our office will do is we'll work with you and we'll talk about the different repayment plans that are out there. Some of them are kind of a straight, you pay a fixed amount for 10 years and then you're done. Some of them are income-based, which actually is very helpful for artists who are first starting out. So you pay less as you, and as your income hopefully increases, then you pay more as you go. But the monthly payments initially are much more manageable. So we, as I said, encourage you guys to meet with us one-on-one, and we'll look at your particular situation and help you figure it out.
I have a question about the 3 letters of recommendation. Could we just discuss that a little bit? It says that they need to be professional contacts with professional emails. So I'm just curious what realm that is, especially for those of us who
graduated from undergrad about 5 or more years ago. Also a question about the resume. How detailed should we get with our academic career and professional accomplishments?
Oh, any and all information is helpful. We don't have a set checklist of things that that need to be there. It's really again about finding out who you are, and that's really the function of the letters of recommendation as well. Because I can think of almost every walk of life from whom we've received letters of recommendation, which is great. Siblings, former employers. But the key is really what light does that person writing shine on, again, who you are as an artist, and maybe also your objectives for studying. That's really, we're really looking for people who know why they're going to graduate school, not necessarily what they're going to do when they get here.
I mean, just to echo the question about letter of recommendation, the idea is to kind of move away from a sibling or a best friend or something, even if they can certainly speak to your work, to someone who's a little bit more objective. If in fact there is someone who's that close to you, but they really are the person who can speak best about your work, then we just ask you to let our office know so we have an understanding of why that person is submitting the recommendation. But we certainly realize that it's not like you're going to have gallery owners necessarily submitting. We just want people who can really speak to your work, that have a bit of distance and objectivity.
Hey, are there any statistics available on the number of graduating artists that are now represented by commercial galleries and how that would compare to other schools in the city?
There maybe are. I don't think we have them. That's maybe something that we don't want to emphasize. Not that we're against gallery representation, but we really are trying to form artists. It's very difficult forming artists in a market New York City environment. And so I guess we have many successful alumni, that's all I could say, but I don't think we would be gathering information on that. Yeah, maybe somebody else thinks differently.
I mean, the alumni pool is a vibrant, active pool at all levels, whether it's commercial galleries or all the myriad of ways that you survive or promote yourself. I don't mean that in a crude way, but the way you create visibility and activity, make cultural contributions, is a lot broader than just a commercial representation. So I haven't been here a long time. It's kind of amazing how vibrant the alumni base is. And look at a list of our alumni and run down the list and see what they're doing. I'd recommend you do that for any school that you're thinking of attending. You should be able to get access to that list and really think about what kind of careers people have, because there's, as I said, so many ways of coloring that, your life in that way.
Yeah, and I think that as someone who's coming in new to both Columbia and relatively new to this city, it's like they're super visible, the alumni, and scratch that surface a little bit, and the word Columbia is right there in a way that sort of startled me at first, but they do sort of stay webbed together in this way. So I think the visibility is really, really high. I don't know about the cash results of that, but they're out there.
Hello, sorry if I missed this, I was a little bit late. But for the MFA in visual arts, is it possible to do it part-time, or what kind of jobs do people in these programs have to kind of support themselves and also pay off the debt?
The program is really so dense that it would be almost impossible to. Well, we don't offer part-time enrollment. First of all, it's full enrollment, full-time study, and it's part of the difficult equation here is earning money, supporting yourself while studying. That said, we do have a very flexible work study. Work study is part of your scholarship when you're admitted, and you know, everyone really is running the program from one side or the other. I don't know if Julie, do you want to say anything more about it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the positions that you're doing, in fact, all of them that you would be doing with the program are campus-based. So they're either in the visual arts office or they're in one of the various studios. So it's much easier to figure out time to work those hours since you're already there. That being said, students do have outside jobs, and it is possible to hold an outside job as long as it's relatively flexible. You obviously wouldn't be able to do like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5, but we realize that, you know, it's an expensive program again, and that students need to find income from other sources. But just so you know, we do help out with that, in that you're all offered as what we call service position as part of your financial aid package when you're accepted.
But all that said, be super careful with yourself. I couldn't see. Did you ask? Yeah. Sorry. Be super careful with yourself. Like if you end up enrolling, like don't try to wait tables from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Like it'll just be too much. You know, and you'll end up like missing school and missing work too. That's all.
We're going to break into small groups soon, but let's take 2 more questions over here. Yes.
Hi, I have 2 questions regarding portfolio submission and financial support. The first one is that if we are submitting like a series, let's say a photography series, and it involves some sort of installation, would you guys recommend if we submit it in like one image, as in like the installation, or, you know, separate images, considering we have a cap of how many images that we can submit?
Right. Again, your guide is coherence. What is the most coherent way? It's good to divorce yourself from what you know about your work when you look at it in the digital portfolio, and of course have other people look at it, which is something you should do with your statement and your whole application, really, to get feedback from other people who may have different levels of experience with visual art graduate programs, you know, just to see what's clear or not clear about the whole thing. And it's just really based on your work. As Shelley mentioned, detail images are really helpful. You know, you get the close-up, you see something. But if it becomes a rabbit hole where we're, you know, seeing many images of the same thing, that, of course, then you've lost a lot of the possibility of showing us what you're doing with other work. And let's take one more. Yeah.
Hi. Many of you spoke about the intensity of the program, and I wonder, and also I think you mentioned that 3 evenings a week there is critiques and other stuff, and I wonder how is it for parents, if there are parents in the program, if there are specifically mothers to young children, and if there is any kind of flexibility to stretch the program over 2.5 years or something like that, and what is your thoughts about that?
We do, ever since I've been here, there have been parents studying. It is required that the program be completed in the 2 years. But faculty, staff, and the university do work to support parents in different ways to allow for that to happen. And I don't know if anyone has more specific observation or first-hand experience. But we have, how many parents do we have in the program now? At least 2, yeah.
The only thing that's happened once or twice is just somebody becomes pregnant and has a baby in the summer, and there have been times when they've taken a year off and then joined the program again when their child was a little older. That's happened 2 or 3 times that I can remember.
Right.
It's super hard. It's super hard, obviously, but parents are encouraged, moms especially.
So I know there are a lot more questions. I've seen a lot more hands. Bring those questions to the breakout now, and if you are thinking about more than one discipline, more than one medium for applying, you might want to try to time it. We'll talk for about half an hour, and you can float among the different breakout groups. And sometimes we have signs. I don't know if we have signs this year. But Tomas, will you be staying in this room, or are you taking your group away? Okay. So, do you want to meet by the elevators then, in that case? Or this corner. You want this corner over here? Okay.
We'll go over here, painting over here.
Okay, painting will be over here. We'll take photography by that exit, the emergency exit in that corner. Where do you want to go, John?
Thank you, Claire. Thank you all the time, Claire.
Sculpture in the back corner.